I owned a company called Mini Disco, and we were sort of selling hacked up microphones and mini disc players. That I was making films at the time, and I'd kind of become obsessed with sound recording. But when I saw these toys, I sold the company for about $250,000 and used the money to start Kidrobot. But what I didn't know at the time was that there'd been a lot of accounting errors and that I was actually $250,000 in debt. I was already in so much trouble that I pretty much had to make the company work. And I think that this is a good model for future entrepreneurs in the room. I would suggest if you can really kind of get yourself completely fucked, then you either succeed or go bankrupt. And Dunny was created by myself and Tristan Eaton. Tristan Eaton did the drawing for the original toy. And this was inspired in some ways. We wanted to make a toy that was the best canvas possible. So I'm going to show you some examples of Dunny. Dunny is a toy that's been repainted now by hundreds of different artists and is incredibly collectible and is now in the collection of the Museum of Modern Art. You can go see it on the design floor. Dunny is a toy that only comes blank. Basically, it's an unpainted toy, and people do exhibitions with them. We do exhibitions with them. They're in curriculum for classrooms. They're in Iraq, in the canteens. The soldiers buy them. Money now has sort of this new family that's coming out this fall. I thought, are these pictures out publicly yet? Okay, so this is the first time anyone ever is going to see them. You guys are so lucky. Also one of our best-selling toys, Frank Kozik's Smork and Labbit. This was actually, the original Smork and Labbit was produced by Bounty Hunter, but it came from poster art done by Frank and from something he drew on a napkin in a Chinese restaurant. You'll notice the butthole, which is a big selling point. This is the Report for Punishment bondage version that we did initially for a nightclub that we designed up in Toronto for Peter Gatien. There's a whole section of that nightclub. This was an exclusive there and also has a butthole. Another toy from Frank Kozik, we replaced a cigarette with a mustache. You know, we were kind of getting hell for all the smoking, so we put smoking as bad on all the toy boxes. This is the original Kidrobot. Kidrobot, again, is made in iteration. This is our logo toy, and he's always numbered, and we do limited editions. So this was number 1. The thing about the Kidrobot logo is he's designed with an underbite. I have an underbite. And he's designed with an underbite because you can't tell whether he's laughing or smiling. It's kind of a Mona Lisa design. So if he's got, as you see, a crowbar in his hand, he's going to break into your car. But if he has a flower, he's actually really cute. The Kid Robber, there were originally 1,200 of these made, but we had a fight with our factory, and we lost 1,000 of them. So this is one of the rarest toys we've ever made. Only 100, I think only 100 made it through in the end. I'd talk a little about the Kidrobot creative process, and I'd start out with the cool shit index. So we're a fairly intuitive company, but this is one of the struggles with Kidrobot is that you want to keep sort of a feeling of exclusivity, right? And you want to make sure, you need to pay attention all the time that you're not repeating yourself too much, that you're not getting old, and that your fans don't get tired of you. And I thought, as a sort of explanation of how we think about things, I'd create this cool shit index, and on the top there you can see really fucking cool. And down here, everyone seems to have one, and down there wouldn't be caught dead with it, and this is sort of a time scale. And I'm going to use, as an example, the members-only jacket. So, because in 1981, I totally wanted a members-only jacket, and I couldn't afford one, and I thought they were amazing. And really, there were this really small crew of kids that were wearing those. And then sort of what happened, as time passed, is they sort of started to dissipate, and more people were wearing them. So the cool kids were wearing them, but then it started to kind of get more and more out there. And you guys all know how this works. So after a while, everyone seems to have one. And as everyone seems to have one, it kind of enters the mass of culture to the point where you actually wouldn't be caught dead wearing one. And the whole style totally dies, right? So this is like the traditional everyone knows it cycle of trends. But what people don't realize is there's sort of the Williamsburg effect. And the Williamsburg effect is that suddenly the stuff's like sitting there on the bottom, and then it pops up right at the top again. It's the coolest thing ever. And then it goes down again, and the cycle sort of repeats itself. You know, the idea was to create clothing that was sort of inspired by the culture of the toys. We're like purposely dorky and not too cool. Each season has a different theme. This season's theme, the season that's out right now, was Catholic Schools Gone Bad. So the rest of my talk is about creativity and sort of how we work. That when I'm in my creative mode, I can't remember. I'm really excited and we're doing tons of stuff, but then afterwards I can't remember myself. Like, I don't know if any of the creative people in the room have this experience, but you do something and it just kind of bursts forth out of you and you're working on it, and then afterwards I can't even remember that I did that. That there was like this internal disconnect. And one of the other things I realized was that a lot of my creativity was deeply connected with fear. And not necessarily in a bad way. So I wrote this down. And it says, the connection between fear and creativity is both inevitable and unnecessary. When we were children, many of us discovered that food was a really great medium for art, right? So we painted with it, we put all over our faces, we threw it on the floor, we threw it on our parents, and we were having a great time. And then what happened was, to many of us, someone came up and said that that's bad, and you're bad for, like, playing and doing this stuff with food and with a lot of other things in our lives. And so what happened is we started to close down. We had a negative association with that kind of creativity. So when we were very young, we kind of started out with a total abandon and freedom. Like, you know, if you look at a little kid's play, they're totally creative. They're not self-conscious at all, right? And then sort of time passes. And then people say, well, that's wrong, and you can't do that, and that's bad. And you were less creative. So by the time you're 4, you're probably about half as creative as when you're 1. And then you go to school, and it's really dull, and there are a bunch of teachers that say nasty things to you, and you want to conform, and your friends are mean, and the whole story, and you get to high school, and you're somewhere down here. And then about here, you kind of cross the line of the average artist in the MoMA permanent collection, which is like why we walk into art museums. I mean, I love museums, but you walk in, you're like, this stuff is like so boring, it sucks. Like, why, what's so interesting about this? And the fact is, it's not that interesting, and it's not that creative. That's the secret. And then you get down to where we are today. And this is like time. And really what's going on is that our minds have started to intrude on our hearts. So like our hearts and our bodies are really where creativity comes from, which is kind of where I was going with this, which is that the reason why I couldn't remember myself being creative is because the part of that is being creative is not in the mind. It wasn't the I was associating myself with. It was the creative I is in your body. And the more the mind sort of starts to intrude, you guys all know this, you're sitting in a meeting and someone says, think creatively. Come on, think creatively. And you can't do it because you can't think creatively, it's in your body. So I wrote this down also, which is fear is the coping mechanism that we develop when we can't deal with our own inner strength. So this is us, and I put a little lab there who's trying to make a decision, and the decision is between comfort and what we're afraid of. And living a creative life is the act of continuously turning toward what scares us. Because when we want to be creative, whether we're creating a business, whether we're creating a toy or apparel or any of the other stuff that we're doing in our lives, it's my experience that turning toward fear's like kind of a flag up there. And what we're afraid of, if we keep turning toward it, interesting things happen. So here's a list of things that kill creativity. Me, that is making it all about me. Comfort and lack of preparation. It's really this simple as far as I'm concerned. And if anyone that works at our company knows that this is what we try to foster. So here's examples of me. Statements like, I'm a genius. I'm totally talentless. I suck. If I don't do a good job, I'm a total loser. I'm afraid to ask for help because of any millions of reasons. Because I have to do it. Because I have to be special. Because people will see that I actually don't know what I'm doing. Things like once I'm famous or once I'm rich. My parents have boring lives, my friends have boring lives, and I'm just like them, like projecting ourselves. And really in the end, it's that the question is whether your fear is bigger than you are. So in the end, we have to get our minds out of the way. We have to kill our egos if we're going to be creative, and we need to create processes for doing that. Other things that kill creativity. Comfort. money, security. And some people are just comfortable being abused. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.